Welcome, Nupur. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good too.
This
So,
is
thank you so much for
absolutely,
accepting.
this is absolutely my pleasure. It's going to be a fun conversation.
Yes, I believe so too. Right, so let's jump in right away. Now, normally I always start with this question because I believe that whenever a person tries to do something, anything, whichever way that person leads his life, some seeds are actually planted in that person's childhood, right? So I just want to understand how your childhood was or how your education was. So probably that can be a good conversation start.
Mm, Basically, I grew up in a very normal Marathi medium school. It was like a standard as it can get, I would say. So I did feel like quite a misfit growing up with like a lot of us have. Because no system is really designed to sort of cater to the creativity of each kid. But I remember, like one thing I significantly remember is I remember being extremely curious, and my parents were sort of cool enough to answer all my questions. If, for example, I used to ask my mother a lot of questions, and she would give me either books or answers or like science experiments. Like they were random, the most random questions possible. And this idea that you can ask questions and there could be answers, there could be a process where you go ahead and sort of look for those answers. That I think is really really important for a child. Um, and I think that's where everything started, sort of, I'd say.
Okay, nice. So was there this rebellious streak as a child? I mean, do you experience anything like that now when you've grown up?
Definitely. Like I think it was quite like I was an annoying child in terms of, again, like I said, questioning everything. It is it is a difficult process growing up if you don't feel like a sense of belonging in the world that you're sort of put in. So I did rebel a lot. I did things based on my beliefs at the time. They could have been wrong on several occasions. But yeah, I mean, we can put it into the category of rebellion. But like the idea was to just do exactly what I feel is right, basically.
Okay, that's very interesting. So what did you want to pursue your career in as a child? Was there any ambition or inclination towards anything specific?
I used to actually go to a family friend's house with my parents as a kid, and I used to see like their daughter. She is a painter actually, and she used to study in Abhinav back then. And I used to see all her canvases. I used to see her paint brushes and like these tens of paint cans and all of that, and it really intrigued me. And that was something I thought I wanted to be back then. I really wanted to become a painter.
Okay.
And yeah, I think I was drawn to it. I mean, and I genuinely believe that there are certain things that you're drawn to inherently, and there are certain things that you are repelled by. The way I was drawn to this freedom, more than just like the artistic aspect of it, but this idea that you can be free in your space, you can be free with your expression.
Mm.
That was something I was inherently drawn to, as opposed to going to an office every day and doing exactly what you're told.
Mm.
It's like a common theme, I think. Like with all my answers, this will be
Okay.
a common theme.
Okay. 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 So you essentially wanted to be an artist or a painter, and then you ended up being a photographer. So which is not completely off. It's not that you wanted to be a scientist and you ended up being a photographer. So how exactly did photography come about, and how was the transition from wanting to be a painter to eventually being?
I think think I was at a certain age, like a lot of us are. I was desperately looking for my language. I was looking for a medium of expression. I was looking for to sort of express myself to the world. And I tried out a bunch of things. I did initially start with painting, but there were like I felt there were limitations of the medium itself. Plus, at some point, I didn't have enough training to sort of pursue painting as a career. Uh, and photography somehow like organically became that medium where you sort of go into someone's life and document that. I would go out a lot with my camera and document what's happening. There was obviously like a lot of technical aspects that needed to be figured out, so that was very interesting. I realized at that time that technology is something that I'm really interested in. So that sort of got me more interested in the whole thing. And I just started taking pictures, man. It's hard to put into like a timeline because that was the time when photography wasn't really like a legitimate form of
Yeah.
career.
Yeah.
So, and I think that was really good because it just like gave me all the space to explore it without trying to put it into like a career format, you know. So I just like met a lot of interesting people through photography. It sort of becomes a bridge into like getting to know a person, getting to know a situation. So you get access into those lives, and that aspect really intrigued me. I think I started taking pictures around when I was around 18.
Okay.
When I had like I started interestingly with digital photography,
Okay.
and then I eventually went back to film photography
Okay.
quite recently, like 6 7 years back. But
Okay.
I started with that small digital camera when I was 17 years old,
Okay.
and I just started taking pictures,
Okay.
and it sort of grew into. I started interning with a lot of photographers. I
Okay.
started working for small magazines. I would like drag my light setup and my camera to places all by myself, and just like the sense of independence, the sense of creativity, the sense of exploration was something that was intriguing to me back then. Eventually, I never actually imagined it to turn into like a legitimate career as
Okay.
such.
Okay. But then you did pursue education in photography as well, right? Because I was just
Yeah. So
looking it up.
yeah. After I finished my graduation, I think the technical education happened by working with a lot of photographers and just doing a lot of work. So the functioning of the camera is not like that difficult, honestly. Like that's something you can learn, and I'm still learning. There are so many aspects that I'm still learning. But I heard about this really interesting small school in Greece, on this island in Greece. And in the beginning, it seemed like super unrealistic that how would I get into this school that only takes like 20 students every semester, and
Yeah.
like people from different sort of different artistic mediums. But I just there was something about that place that really I was drawn to, and I applied for that school, and I went there to technically study photography and painting.
Uh,
But eventually, I feel like I ended up learning so much more than just that.
so, but now you've also specialized within photography, right? You are a wedding photographer, if
Right.
I'm not wrong. So, how did that overall come about?
I think my career as a wedding photographer definitely evolved as the industry of wedding photography did. Because when I started, I was shooting weddings for friends. Like a friend of mine who works in an IT company and is a very creative person. In spite of that, I would say,
Okay.
or like he's a creative IT and entrepreneur, but he wanted his wedding pictures to be different. So that was like literally my first assignment when candid wedding photography wasn't such a big deal.
Mm.
uh, and I just wanted to take a lot of natural pictures of their wedding. And I remember like really working hard, staying up all night the night before and deciding, okay, I want to do this, I want to do that, and really working hard on that first assignment. And I think that energy almost like translated, and he put pictures on Facebook from his wedding, and I started getting a lot more inquiries.
Okay.
And it's been like 6 7 years since that, so it's
Wow.
I can't believe it's been that long.
Okay. So you never intended to specialize in wedding photography. It just happened by
Yeah,
chance.
yeah, I did because I mean, I didn't have the vision back then that it will become what it is now. But I think back then I thought I wanted to do like super artistic things, and wedding photography is not as artistic. But eventually, I realized that it's such a real form of documentary. You really are in the in the midst of it all. You're
Mm.
really close to the family, you're close to the couple, you're documenting that relationship
Right.
for what it is. And it's a very intense and emotional experience. And it's such a high that I felt like, what are these ideas of what is artistic and what is not? I'm enjoying this experience so much more than any notional sort of ideas of what artistic medium is.
Okay. And essentially, I mean, that is how you also started being close to the, let's say, the bride and the groom, and then trying to get into their comfort zone early. That is how you operate, right?
Yeah, yeah. I think now that the medium of wedding photography has grown so much, I sort of a few years back, I sort of sat down and figured out that everybody that is getting married right now, for example, is not cannot be my client, right?
Mm.
So I have to figure out what my niche is. I have to
Okay.
figure out what rings true to who I am.
Mm.
I have to figure out what are the clients that I can serve best to.
Okay.
And those are intimate weddings, basically. So
Okay.
weddings that are smaller, weddings that are not very traditional,
Okay.
weddings where the couple is going out of their way to sort of redefine traditions, redefine what they want their wedding to be.
Okay.
Those are the families and the couples that are my sort of perfect clientele.
Wow. Okay.
So that really helped me enjoy my job a lot more, because I'm doing things that actually make sense to me. It's like,
Mm.
because weddings are so intense, you're spending days with that family,
Yeah.
um, you're spending so much time with that family that you have to sort of really relate to them in order to document their day in a special way.
Okay.
So this really helped me streamline all of that for myself.
Okay. Okay. So, what are some of the special assignments or noteworthy assignments that you've completed so far?
Oh wow. I recently photographed a wedding in Mahabaleshwar. It was at this beautiful resort, and it only had 70 guests.
Wow. Okay.
Only 70 guests at an Indian wedding. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
That was a beautiful wedding. Everything was done with so much like intentionality. They only had very close people to them, and that just made the wedding so emotional and so beautiful. There was so much thought put into everything that the whole experience was like a high for me. Like I
Okay.
came out of that wedding full of energy and laughter and love. That was really beautiful. A few years back, I photographed this wedding, and again, like a very small wedding at a farmhouse close to Pune. And they had like the groom was from England, the girl is
Okay.
Indian, and we
Okay.
had an India versus England cricket match.
Wow. Good.
Uh, and they sort of redefined a lot of the traditions. So traditions that are usually carried out by the men in the family. They had the women in the family do those traditions.
Okay.
And again, like a very emotional, poetic wedding. And when I saw that wedding, I felt, oh, I want to get married this way. So
Okay.
these two weddings, and there are so many. I mean, so many other weddings that have really stayed with me and really affected sort of who I am today.
Okay.
Mhm.
And then, so this is what you do, I am told, for about 6 months in a year.
Yeah.
And then for the other 6 months, you pursue some other passion projects, right? So now, having a career in photography itself is what I would call, following your passion, or an instance of following your passion. But then, even while you are doing that, there are some other passion projects that you're also doing for the rest of your time. So can you tell me a little bit more about those?
Yeah. So, I mean, the wedding industry right now is a very, very competitive, very hardcore sort of an industry. Also, like physically, it's a very, very demanding job because you're traveling constantly. So, I have a wedding in Delhi one day, and literally the next day, I have a wedding in Kerala.
Wow.
So there's like a lot of red eye flights, lot of sleepless nights, lot of stress. All of these are aspects of this creative profession that are very much like any other career.
Mm.
So I somewhere knew that I don't want my life to be about this.
Okay.
I definitely value the experiences and the financial security that
Mm.
wedding photography gives me. But there are so many aspects of my personality that I want to explore, and that can only happen through something else. So,
Okay.
uh, documentary photography, again, like it's a very very vague term, and there are so many interpretations of that. But that's something that has always drawn me to it,
Okay.
especially photo books.
Okay.
So as a medium, it's such an intimate, poetic medium that aspect is something that I can't fully bring to my wedding photography work.
Okay.
So what I do is like I said, I do 6 months of wedding photography, which is like a very commercial, stressful part of my life. And 6 months, I work on documentary photo projects that involve a lot of reading, that
Mm.
involve talking to a lot of people, that involves talking to a lot of meeting and photographing a lot of interesting people.
Mm.
Um, and the division isn't very hard, so it's not like 6 months and
Oh, okay.
it's not like a very cutthroat division.
Okay.
So it's loosely 6 months of wedding photography and 6 months of other work.
Okay. Okay. So, can you again give me some examples of these kind of the other projects that you actually do?
So 2014, in 2014, I did a crowd-funded project.
Okay.
I documented Maharashtrians who migrated to different parts of the world.
Wow.
So in Europe, or like in a small town in France, for example, or somebody who left for London like 50 years back.
Mm.
So I documented some of these people, and the whole project was crowdfunded.
Okay.
And so we made like a photo book with it that was exhibited at British Council in Delhi.
Wow.
So that was one project. I'm currently working. It's been a few years since I've been working on this project, and there are a lot of dead ends. But I'm currently working on a project about my great grandfather.
Oh, okay.
So this is an interesting story. A few years back, I found some pictures at my aunt's place of my great grandfather, who was a monk. So त्यांनी संन्यास घेतला होता. He left when he was 40 years old,
Okay.
and he just disappeared. And the family didn't really know much about him. And when they tracked him, he had become this big monk. He had a temple in Delhi, which is still there. And there's like a lot of mystery around who he was. And I've always like vaguely heard stories कि ऐसा है ऐसे होते वगैरह वगैरह. But recently, a few years back, when I found pictures of him from traveling from all over the world, I was completely blown away, and I was like, I have to sort of pursue this story. And it's been meeting a lot of dead ends. Like I have literally written to Russian embassy. I have talked to like journalists. I have talked to every possible person who could give me more information. And I
Okay.
have uncovered some really interesting things that hopefully I can make into something someday.
Oh,
But this pursuit has been like so crazy that just somebody so closely related to me, I don't really know much about him.
yeah.
So yeah.
Okay.
That's a photo book I really hope to make into something someday.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah.
Right. So you mentioned that you pursue these, passion projects for about 6 months, and you also like to work with a specific set of people, right? So does it also mean that you turn down a lot of business?
Yes. I do turn down some work, um, but I think it makes complete sense in like in the long run, because if you want to establish, even from like a purely business point of view, if you want to establish your brand as a niche brand,
Mm,
it doesn't make any sense to do every kind of work.
okay.
uh, it just makes your brand stronger, and then you end up attracting the right kind of clients to you
Mhm.
only based on that.
Mm. Now, going back a little bit, when you actually decided to pursue your career in photography, which you mentioned, which was about 7 years back, so it wasn't a very prominent like a career back then, right? So were you ever scared of exactly how it will turn out? Was there ever fear of failure?
Definitely. And I think no matter what career choice you make, no matter how supposedly secure that option is, that fear of failure is just so inherent to every human being, that you can't escape it, and you shouldn't escape it either, because it's a part of who you are and a part of your journey. So it's basically, if you want it enough that you can go beyond that fear, then you know this is really what you want to do. It's such a simple way to determine it, right? That I am scared, but I still want to do it. It's such an easy answer that oh, okay, then this makes complete sense to me.
Okay, but then do you have a backup plan in that case?
Um, Backup plans. I've never thought of it like that. But we always have backup plans, man. And I mean, we always have something else we can do if something doesn't work out.
Mm,
There's always a way out of considering, especially people like us who are already very privileged.
mm,
Um, we are we are extremely privileged. We get to walk into rooms that a lot of people in this country can't. So while I think it's very important to be aware of that privilege, it just makes your fear a little more, non-dramatic, because you know there's something that you can fall back on eventually.
okay. So when you actually started off on this path, or till today, in the last 7 or 8 years, were there weak moments where you felt that you're not doing something right, or you could have done something better? This is not your best possible expression, or any kind of weak moments?
Right. I think growing up, I was for like a few years, I was going through depression.
Okay.
And I mean, there are hundreds of reasons that a lot of people go through depression. It's very much a part of our reality as a society, and often we don't talk about it because we think that depression is a weakness that you have to sort of push aside to succeed in that career. But for me, I feel like that helped me redefine and really find my path. Um, Of course, there have been moments where I felt like, is this pursuit really worth it? Will it be easier to just take up a regular job and go to work and like not have to make an effort every time you have to get an assignment, not have to make an effort every time you have to motivate yourself to do something, to think of a new idea. Uh, but I think we don't really have that escape route. None of us do. There is no way out. So there is no easy way out of it. You just have to go through it to get to where you want to be. So for me, I think that time of depression was really a time where I could work on myself. I could figure out who I am. That is a big question. I think that that just makes life worth living, sort of. So that period and that difficult time really helped me define the direction that I wanted to go in.
So how exactly did you come out of it? Uh,
There is, of course, there's one aspect of it which is therapy, and which is like taking help from professionals. That is one aspect of it. And the other aspect, again, is figuring out what makes you happy, figuring out what makes you alive, makes you feel alive. For me, it was creativity. For me, it was art, not just making art, but looking at art and experiencing art. So it just helped me sort of want to travel the world. So I like ended up traveling a lot. It just helped me broaden the vision of the world. What depression does is it just makes your vision really narrow. It makes you look at primarily just negative things. But when you travel around the world, when you meet kind, loving, generous people, you just that vision slowly starts opening up. And in that process, you don't just see positivity, but you just see so many options available in life, whether it's your work, whether it's relationships, whether it's purpose and meaning and all of that.
Also, like, since you know that, I mean, I am doing this series for people who probably are hesitant, who are not happy in the places that they are, but they
Right.
still kind of stick to that place
Right.
because there's a question of livelihood, right?
Yeah.
So how did you deal with, or was there ever again a fear of livelihood for you, and how important do you think money is
Yeah.
in the overall scheme of things?
Yeah, yeah. I think that's an amazing question. That's a very, very important question that we often forget. Like we had discussed last time, like money is a medium. Money is a currency we have decided on, sort of to sort of place your life in the way you want to. This whole idea of starving artists is not like it gets old pretty quickly. Um, you can't aspire to be a starving artist. I don't believe that's true. So yes, money is absolutely important, and even building a business is very artistic. Actually, building a business is a very, very creative process, and it's exciting. Like I love doing that. I love constantly reinventing my business. I love constantly figuring out like exactly what I want to do with that business. I love marketing. I mean, no, not a lot of people would say that, but I genuinely like it. I genuinely like connecting with just the right kind of people and sort of uh, I love having client meetings. I love just having that discussion with a person that you're going to be working with, and you're going to give them something they are looking for.
Yeah.
So all of that is very exciting. I think that is. Sorry, what was your question again?
How important
Financial
is money?
security.
Yes.
Yes, yes, it's very important, I think. But like my brother is a financial advisor, so he helped me question a lot of my beliefs that I had about money. For example, I genuinely thought that if I'm pursuing money, I am not artistic enough.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and this idea is flawed inherently because I can't give somebody a photograph and ask them to pay my rent. I can't do that. So money is critical just to keep to clear your mind and have like a healthy mental physical well-being, right? uh, so that really helped me define certain beliefs that I had about money. um, One important aspect I feel is important is money is important, yes, but that doesn't mean you need a lot of money. So the idea is to define how much money you want and what is the kind of work you can do to sort of get there, to build that level of financial security, and that should be enough, because we have these unhealthy ideas about money that if I want money, I want a lot of it,
Okay.
right? So you want how much, जितके तुम्हाला हवेत ना पैसे तितके पैसे मिळवा, आणि you can do everything you want to do with it.
Okay. How do you define that? त्याच्यासाठी you have to define your goals, right? You have to define what you want to achieve in, let's say,
Exactly.
5 years, 10 years, and then you can actually figure out that, okay, probably I don't need 5 crore rupees, I probably need 2
Right.
crore, for
Right.
example. It makes sense.
Exactly what you said, की तुम्हाला काय हवंय हे आधी डिफाईन केलं पाहिजे. म्हणजे पैसे हा एक ऍस्पेक्ट आहे, पण तुम्हाला
Hmm.
काय हवंय हे डिफाईन केलं पाहिजे, की मला इतकं इतकं ट्रॅव्हल करायचंय,
Hmm.
मला पैशाची चिंता नाही करायची फॉर एक्झाम्पल, किंवा
Hmm.
मला अशा स्पेसमध्ये काम करायचंय जिथे मला क्रिएटिव्हली चार्ज वाटतं. ह्या सगळ्या गोष्टी तुम्ही आयुष्यात डिफाईन केल्या ना, तर
Hmm.
it just becomes easier to look at money just as a tool
Hmm.
and not as the ultimate aim, sort of.
Right. So I'm just coming towards the final stages. So like I mentioned, there would be a lot of people who would be listening to this, who would be in a dilemma
Right.
about their careers, and who probably have a passion but they cannot pursue. So is there any advice that you would like to give to these people?
Um, I think no matter what stage you're in, what career you're in. For example, if you're in a creative career, that doesn't mean there isn't a rat race there. There is definitely a rat race there. The idea of constantly questioning systems that are given to you, I think is very, very necessary for everybody. Again, like no matter what career you're in. So that needs to happen. की जसं आपण टेलरकडे जाऊन मला माझ्या मापाचे कपडे शिवून दे बाबा असं म्हणतो ना, की
Hmm.
यू कॅन जस्ट रँडमली, आणि ती माप खूप वेगळी वेगळी असतात प्रत्येकासाठी. हे महत्वाचं असतं, टू रिअली एक्सेप्ट दॅट इवन टू युअर सेल्फ, की what I want, what will work for my life has to be extremely tailor made. So somebody else's measurements are not going to work for me. That idea really redefined a lot of things for me. So I think that is very significant. आणि तुला एलिझाबेथ गिल्बर्ट माहितीये का तुला?
No.
She's an author.
Yes.
Ha. So she has written a lot about creativity, and she's written a lot about courage, which is extremely significant to my journey, definitely. To in fact, मी तुला एक link देते, you should add it to this interview. So she defines what we are discussing right now. Uh, Hobby, job, career आणि vocation.
Patient.
तू ते ऐकलंयस का
Oh.
त्याच्याबद्दल?
No.
हा. So
Pretty powerful.
those four aspects, it's so powerful की त्या 4 गोष्टी ह्या वेगळ्या आहेत. आणि you don't have to randomly leave your job and leave the security that comes with it to be creative suddenly. You can, like I said, custom made and tailor made everything based on your life situation and who you are. So that is absolutely, that talk is life changing, isn't it?
Okay. Okay. That's amazing. So I think that's about it. Overall, if you have any final words before we can wrap up. Before.
I think again, like fundamentally, काही गोष्टी value system तुम्ही define करणं is something that all of us can. This is something all of us can share, like compassion, kindness, equality. ह्या सगळ्या गोष्टी फंडामेंटल असतात. आणि मग no matter what career you choose, not what kind of business you choose to build, uh, those things come very organically. It's all about like being true to who you are, being very authentic to what you want to say, and everything else I feel comes very naturally.
Okay. Amazing. Perfect, Nupur. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank
Really appreciate it, and I really enjoyed this talk.
thank you
I
so
was, like I said at the beginning, I was very excited, and it definitely lived up to my expectations. Thank you so much for doing this.
much. Thank you so much. It was so nice talking to you, and we'll definitely meet in person.
We
And
will,
I'm
yes.
sure, like, I would also like to pick your brain about so many other things.
Sure, sure. Definitely love to do that. Okay,
All
perfect.
right. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
thank you.
Bye bye.